Hello, my students, and I welcome you to Lesson 19 in Seow's A Grammar for Biblical Hebrew, Lesson 19 on page 214. In this lesson, fortunately, Seow does not advance the ball too far downfield on us. We're still sticking with the call imperfect forms. However, he's going to show us a whole bunch of forms for different types of verbs. As you expect by this point, verbs that are first yod or middle vav, first guttural, third hey, first noon, all kinds of things like that, things that cause problems in every type of configuration that we've seen so far. So on page 214, for example, you're going to find that anytime you were supposed to have a shava previously, you're going to get the compound shava. So page 214, 1D, under amad stand, you get ya'amod, right? Whereas before we had yich tov, just kind of, the first syllable just went yich and kind of stopped at the kaf there with the shava, yich tov. Now, though, you can't have shava under a guttural, so you're going to get that nice compound A vowel, which gutturals love. Ya'amod, ta'amod, ta'amod, ta'amdi, e'amod, ya'amdu, ta'amodna, ta'amodna, ta'amdu, ta'amodna, na'amod. Okay. And it's not always the A vowel, though. If you look at chazak, for example, you get an E. Yechazak, and so on. For a first aleph or first guttural, you just get no vowel. Yochal, tochal, tochal, tocheli, ochal. Okay. Notice in the first common singular of achal, if the verb is already first aleph, you don't put two alephs in front of the word for the first common singular. It's just ochal. And those two alephs sort of just are like overlapping on top of each other or something. Okay. And you can read all the notes and get as freaked out or as geeked out as you want to get about these notes, okay? The important thing is to notice some of these vowel changes, to notice that the consonant coming before the verb and afterward, the affirmatives and the preformatives of the imperfect are still the same, even given these vowel changes, okay? Nothing to get too upset about. And there are reasons for these changes and all kinds of things. And do you need to memorize every single form in the vowel changes? No, but as always, the more the better, right? Can only help you. Page 215 gives you a list of some third aleph. Third aleph's a little different too. Because you got that aleph hanging out there. Yimsa, timsa, timsa, timsa'i, emsa, yimsa'u, okay? Timsena, timsa'u, timsena. Do you see the quiescent aleph in the third feminine plural and the second feminine plural? Just kind of hangs out there all naked and by itself. And nimsa. No big deal there, right? Page 216, he gives you some third hey. And we're going to see that in certain forms, second feminine singular, third masculine plural, second masculine plural, second feminine plural, the hey goes away. Yigle, tigle, tigle, tigli, egle, yiglu, tiglena, tiglu, tiglena, nigle. And he gives also a chart there for yehye, which means to be, it will be or he will be. Yehye, tihye, tihye, tihyi, that looks weird. Ehye, yehyu, tihyena, tihyu, tihyena, nihye. Okay. You may be wondering, what if a verb is first n, first noon? Because you have that first common plural form, which starts with an n, right? And by the way, the n often assimilates before another strong consonant. Yeah, exactly. Look at the chart on page 217. These first noon verbs are a real pain in the butt sometimes because you lose that n and now you're like left shuffling to figure out what the root is. It's a constant problem. Page 217, take nafal, fall down. It's not yin pole, tin pole. It's yip pole with two P's in the middle. Yipol, tipol, tipol, tipali, epol. Yipelu, tipolna, tipelu, tipolna, nipol. Okay. Notice there you don't get two N's. I mean, really, actually, in the first common plural, you'd think there you'd get three N's in a row, an N for the prefix. Well, no, not three N's in a row, two N's in a row. Really, you just get one, and the other one has moved into the pay. Okay, first common plural of nafal. You see that? And he gives you some other examples. What if you have a first noon and a middle guttural? Well, there's nachal, yin chal, tin chal. You get a different theme vowel. Whereas yipol, the vowel was O. And if it's a second guttural, gutturals don't really like O vowels as much as they like A vowels. They really like the A. So you get yin chal, tin chal, yasa, yatain. Natan is such a common verb, the last column on page 217, column on the right. Natan is such a common verb that's one you want to pay attention to because it occurs so much. And yeah, you lose the N. So it's yitain, titain, titain, titani, etain. Yitenu, titana, titenu, titana, nitain. Okay. Moving on to the next page and a quarter here. What if it's first vav? Okay. He gives three important features there in 217. There's no first radical. That goes away. The vowel of the preformative is A, and the thematic vowel is typically A. Okay. So he gives some examples of this. Page 218. They can look a little odd. Yeshev, yeshev, yeshev. Okay. Sit, dwell. He will sit. He will dwell. Or yeda, he will know. Okay. I mean, those forms start with a yod already, right? Yiktov, tiktov, tiktov, and yiktevu. But then what happens when you get a Y in the first letter of the word itself? Well, the vowel goes to A, the sere, and that's really your clue. Yeshev, teshev, teshev, teshvi, eshev, yeshvu, teshavna, teshvu, teshavna, neshev. Okay, do you see how that works? Otherwise, you might get a little confused, like what if the verb was shuv, turn or return, shin vav bet? That would look a little different, right? But in terms of the vowels, this is something you know. Actually, I don't even think we've had shuv yet as a vowel, or as a verb, so I don't want to give that as an example. He gives some first yods on page 219. If it's first yod, you really will get the two yods there. Yitav, see that? Page 219 under 6b. Yitav. Not a ton of first yod verbs. Originally first yod verbs, that is. Remember, we're making that distinction here between verbs that were originally first yod, like yatav, he is good, or he will be good, go well, versus yashav, which was originally first W, like washabu in Akkadian. So if it was originally first W, first vav, then you get that pattern with the sere. If it was originally first yod, okay, so that historical grammar stuff does kind of come back to bite you, I realize. Finally, he ends on page 220 by giving you some paradigms for what these middle weak verbs look like. Second vav or second yod. Page 220. Kum is a very common verb, so it might help to pay attention to kum and to bo, for example. Yakum, takum, takum, takumi, akum. Yakumu, takumena, takumu, takumena, nakum. Yavo, tavo, tavo, tavoi, avo, yavou, tavoena, tavou, tavoena, navo. We will enter. Okay, see how that works? Then he gives you a little rundown of a verb, yakol, which is kind of an odd verb, which behaves weirdly, like you call, to call, to call. Okay, probably not worth memorizing yakol. It's just a little note. Some of these verbs don't fit into any of the recognizable patterns we've been looking at in these past two lessons, okay? You get your regular vocab. A lot of verbs. Oh man, page 221. That's actually a long list of verbs. That could induce depression, looking at that list of verbs. Make note cards and memorize them all immediately. Okay. And then you get your examples, more passages from the Bible. Notice, though, take comfort. The pattern is still the same. Yeah, what happens in the middle and some assimilations and stuff will throw you for a flying leap. But the basic pattern and the basic endings, the preformatives, the affirmatives on the imperfect are all the same for all of the types of verbal patterns, okay? You can do this, okay? You can and you will.